coming up from the Northeast Live Studios in Guwahati. Northeast Tonight with Wasbir Hussain.
Hello and welcome to Northeast Tonight, the show that decodes the region. During the last fortnight, two leading political figures in Nagaland, Deputy Chief Minister Y. Patton and former Chief Minister S.C. Jamir, had said publicly that leaders representing the Government of India have made it clear that a separate flag and constitution for the Nagas would not be part of any possible agreement on the Naga issue. Now, Mr. Patton is a senior BJP leader and he quoted central leaders as saying so. As for Mr. Jamir, he made the statement a few days after meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Union Home Minister Amit Shah. Now, the big question is whether New Delhi, through these important political functionaries, wants to send out a message to the Naga people that it cannot concede the NSCNIM demand for a separate flag and constitution in the manner they want. We don't know the reality because the Government of India or its Naga peace interlocutor have not made any official statement in this regard. Again, those who have made statements saying Delhi was not considering granting a flag and constitution are responsible political leaders. Would they have said so without any basis? Now, there is a big twist to the issue with co-chairman of Nagaland's ruling United Democratic Alliance, Mr. Azo Nenu, today claiming that the Naga statute or Yuzabo may find reflection in the Indian constitution in some form. Could this be the compromise formula in the offing? Well, we shall know more from Mr. Azo Nenu himself, who is joining me tonight on the show from Kohima. Also joining me on the show is Mr. Hukiye Yaptomi, Vice President of the Central Nagaland Tribes Council. Naga Hoho General Secretary Eluendang and ENPO President Mr. R. Saipikyu Sangtam is also with me on the program tonight. Some time ago, I spoke with former Nagaland Chief Minister and veteran political leader S.C. Jamir on the Naga issue. Now, before we begin the discussion, what promises to be an engrossing discussion tonight, let's listen in to what Mr. S.C. Jamir had told me some time ago. I have with me Mr. S.C. Jamir, veteran Naga leader and former Chief Minister and Governor. Mr. S.C. Jamir, welcome to Northeast Tonight. When you say that a separate flag and constitution are no longer part of an agreement, possible agreement rather, to the Naga peace issue, people would obviously want to know where is it coming from, what is the source?
When I met Prime Minister and Home Minister in Delhi, I asked them, what are the issues which are to be clarified? They told me very clearly that neither the flag nor the constitution figured in the two agreements. And this was from no other person than Home Minister and Prime Minister.
Now, few days before you spoke to our channel and made those statements, now the Nagaland Deputy Chief Minister, Mr. Y. Patton, at an event in Wokha, said more or less the same things. Now, was it a coincidence or do you think the center actually wants to convey a message through you or for that matter Mr. Patton to the people of Nagaland?
You should remember that all the legislators, they have committed to vacate their seats to pave the way for solution. And in order to fortify that commitment, they have decided to form partyless government to pave the way for Naga solution. And therefore, it is may not be obligatory, but morally, they have got the duty to prove what they have committed in action. And therefore, what Deputy Chief Minister has said at Oka, I think it is in the same line.
Now, Mr. Jamir, do you get a sense that the center, or for that matter, the government of India, wants to send out a message to the Naga people not to expect that demands like the flag and constitution would be part of an agreement?
Actually, PR is not the first. Settlement should be the first. Because one political settlement is made, necessary arrangements have been made under president rule. And therefore, it is not PR first, but Naga political solution should come first, according to my views.
The NSCNIM has always been accusing you of being an architect of the 16-point agreement, which they say is flawed and they have rejected. Now, my question to you, looking back, Mr. Jamir, do you agree that it was a flawed agreement?
I am telling you candidly and categorically that I am not the architect. All those leaders who were at that time, like Dr. Ingong Ao, Jasuke, Kevijusa, Vizol, those were the front-run leaders of that time. I was only a joint secretary, and therefore this was the decision, the unanimous decision of the 16 tribes of Nagaland to constitute a state within Indian Union. And therefore, I was also fortunately a part of that decision, not architect. And therefore, what I am saying, because they were not there, many of them were either young or not born. And therefore, history the record that it was a decision, unanimous decision of the 16 tribes of Nagaland.
Now, what is the road ahead in your view? Do you think that the flag and constitution issues, they will become the huge roadblock, that will become the key roadblock as far as the Naga peace talks are concerned? And do you think the agreement is not going to materialize anytime soon?
Well, it is entirely up to the government of India, but it is the passionate feeling of the Naga people that it should be made immediately. No further delay, because once it was decided in 2015, 2017, all these agreements were made, and these were endorsed on 31st October 2019, and sufficient time was given, and therefore it is time the settlement should be made.
Now, the NNPGs are ready to sign on the dotted lines, they're ready to sign the agreement. Now, the question is, honestly, can anyone expect the Naga issue to be resolved, if only one of the groups were to sign the accord?
There are two agreements made by NSCNIM and NNFG, but these are for Naga people, and therefore you cannot have separate agreement here and there. It should be an agreement binding on all groups.
Now, if the NSCNIM refuses, Mr. Jamir, to sign the agreement, without their demand of a flag and constitution being considered, do you think the government of India should wait indefinitely for reaching an agreement to the Naga peace issue, to the Naga issue?
Is it not a fact that on 3rd August 2015, Moiba and Ravi have signed at their own volition in the presence of the Prime Minister, Home Minister, and dignitaries on both sides, and they clapped hands, shook hands. Is it not a positive sign of that agreement? And as a Naga, I think whatever we have promised, whatever we have appended our signature, we should honor it. Because as a Naga, we should not go back to what we have done and what we have said. This is also now time to show that Nagas can be relied upon.
Finally, Mr. Jamir, how do you feel when groups like the NSCNIM say that voices of leaders like you are no longer relevant as far as the Naga peace talks or the Naga peace issue is concerned?
We are living in a democracy. Every individual has got a right to express all her views on issues that will determine their future. And I'm also one of the citizens of this country, and I'm also one of the elders of this state who have been engaged in very actively in the service of the people for the last more than 60 years. And therefore, I have got my legitimate constitutional right to express my views and opinions on any issues which involves Naga people.
Right. Mr. S.C. Jamir, veteran Naga leader, former Chief Minister and Governor, thank you very much indeed for speaking to me on Northeast Tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. We have heard Mr. S.C. Jamir on that issue. Let me begin the discussions. We have got a very, very esteemed panel tonight. We have got an esteemed, let's have everybody on the screen. Yes, we have got an esteemed panel tonight. Let me go directly to Mr. Azo Nenu, who is the co-chairman of the ruling United Democratic Alliance and a very senior NPF leader. He's the legislature party leader of the NPF. Mr. Nenu, welcome to Northeast Tonight. Can you hear me, Mr. Nenu?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Pleasure is
I
mine.
can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. In the last few days, Mr. Nenu, we have heard Mr. Y. Patton, the Deputy Chief Minister of Nagaland, senior BJP leader, and we have also heard Mr. S.C. Jamir. He has also reiterated the same thing on the program tonight. Both these two leaders said that the government of India or the central leaders have made it amply clear with no ambiguity that the NSCNIM demand for a flag and constitution are no longer part of any possible deal. But today, during an interview with our channel, which we have telecast, you have said that, you have got a sense that the government of India may include the constitution demand or the Yazabo in some form. There will be a reflection of the Yazabo or the constitution in some form in the Indian constitution. It might find reflection. So, you have said this, obviously, you must have some basis for this. Could you kindly explain what is the actual position?
Okay. I'm a latecomer in the core committee group. And whatever has been discussed in the past, I have very little knowledge. But recently in our trip to Delhi, in our interaction with A.K. Mishra, we cornered him very badly in regard to the constitution and the flag. Of course, the government of India is not going to recognize the constitution and flag. But we must also appreciate government of India for trying to settle things outside the constitution. Because what we have made to understand is the Yazabo, their demand for the Yazabo will be incorporated in the constitution. And also in regard to the flag, the government of India has agreed to recognize the Naga flag to be hosted in the cultural programs and the Pan Naga Hoho office. So somehow, I think they have gone out of the way to accommodate their demand. So we feel that this time around, spades, we should call spades a spades, and it's high time I am also come out straightforward whether they want to accept or not, because they cannot keep this Naga issue pending for too long. How long will the Naga people tolerate the actions of our national workers? Daily extortion is going on, price rise is there, threat, intimidation is there. Nagas are practically fed up of this.
Right. That is a very clear-cut statement. It's a very candid statement coming from a senior political leader, that is Mr. Azo Nenu, who is the co-chairman of the UDA. He is also part of the core committee on the Naga peace talks. So, viewers, this is the breaking story at this point in time. Mr. Nenu once again reiterating what he had said earlier to our channel, and he has made more clear at this point in time. He said that the government of India has no problem in agreeing to the flag as long as it is used by the Naga people for cultural programs and in cultural activities in the cultural sphere. In the cultural sphere, the government of India is ready to allow the Naga people the use of their sacred flag. Now, as far as the Yazabo or the separate demand for a separate Naga constitution, there Mr. Nenu has said that it might find reflection in the constitution. So these are indications that the government of India is ready to walk the extra mile to resolve the issue. So I hope I am clear in understanding you, Mr. Nenu.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, let me go now to Mr. Sangtam. Mr. Chapikyu Sangtam is the president of the ENPO. Mr. Sangtam, welcome. Now, what do you think is the situation? Do you think you have heard Mr. Patton, who has been widely reported in the media, including our channel? He has said that the central leaders had made it amply clear that there will be no question of granting flag and the constitution for the NSCNIM demand. Then you have heard also Mr. S.C. Jamir, who said that after meeting Modi, the Prime Minister and Mr. Amit Shah, he said that question of sovereignty, integration, flag and constitution, these are not going to be considered by the government of India. Now we have heard Mr. Nenu, who he himself said that he is a newcomer in the Naga peace talk because he is a newly inducted into the core committee. He said that he is getting a sense after talking in the last round of discussions with the government of India's interlocutor that government of India is ready to give the flag but only for use in the cultural field, and also ready to give the constitution in some form, a reflection of the constitution in the in government scheme of things. Now, what do you think? What is going on? What is the sense you are getting from outside?
Thank you, Mr. Hussain. Thank you for inviting me. Anyway, regarding this issue, this is a Naga political issue. Maybe we are not included in the part, though we are treated as a stakeholder. Yet, it will be, for me, it will be very improper to explain all this kind of issue, especially flag and constitution, because it has got to do with the negotiators. So, according to me, what I can learn is that since negotiation has started, I think from the both sides, it should come forward, even if there's an Indian army and from the IMT, they should be so adamant. Because if they love our people, they should come forward and make the negotiation and meaningful negotiation so that the solution will be a solution or acceptable solution to both. Thank you.
Right. So that we'll try to fix the audio once again with Mr. Sangtam. Yeah, he basically said that both sides have to come forward. The need is to resolve the issue. Now let me turn to you, Mr. Hukie Yefthomi, the Vice President of the CNTC. Vice President of the CNTC. Mr. Yefthomi, what are your opening remarks? Are you a little hopeful than before that a solution is finally on the cards? At least from what Mr. Jamir and Mr. Patton said a few days ago, from there it appeared as if there is a stalemate. The NSCN says that these are the core issues and they are not going to budge from the core issues. But today Mr. Nenu has said that the sense he has got is that the government of India might also think about accommodating basically demand for a statute in some form or the other. So what is the sense you are getting, Mr. Yefthomi?
In the show.
Increase the volume.
Team leaders and fellow panelists. Yeah. Firstly, I want to say that competency of the negotiation is a questionable. They have taken the Naga issue and its people for right for the last 35 years. You see, if you feel the pulse of the Nagas, every stakeholder are looking for the early solutions and inclusive of all Naga. But the problem here is the framework agreement is still yet to be put into public domain. And we are worried what is the content in the framework agreement.
Right.
Yeah, as our leader, Honorable MLA has stated, I'm just writing now. I mean, that can be achieved, that is very welcoming. But the content of the Yazabo also has to be known to the public. We cannot just blindly accept whatever the solution comes. We have to know this they
All
are
right.
deciding for ourselves.
Yeah. Now, I think we have got to fix some of these audios. We have got a serious audio issue with Mr. Sangtam as well as Mr. Yefthomi. Before I will come once again to you, Mr. Azo Nenu, but before that, Mr. Eluandang, what do you make of the developments? Mr. Jamir and Mr. Y. Patton clearly saying that the NSCNIM demand is not going to be entertained. And now you have heard Mr. Nenu saying that things may not be exactly like that, that the flag, we have heard it before also, that the government of India has no problem in allowing the flag to be used for cultural purposes. But the NSCNIM has said that they are not going to accept the cultural use of the flag because they said that flag is an integral part of their demand. Now, do you see a solution? Do you see a stalemate? What are your views?
Wasbir, I hope my audio is clear.
Your audio is clear, yes.
Yeah, Nagas at the moment are trapped in the language of solution.
Close up.
And it is important that talks being unconditioned, all preconditions of maximalist stance can practically translate real solution unless it is naturally with on win-win basis. Having said that, Wasbir, please tell the viewers what are the issues, otherwise, what government of India has considered so far. I think we have focused so much on things which may not be considered. If we can know the position of the
no, but Mr. Eluandang, I'm going to ask this to Mr. Nenu himself. The framework agreement, the NSCNIM, don't you think that the NSCNIM signed the framework agreement under the framework of the Indian Constitution?
Only the
You're asking me?
negotiating parties, those who have sat across the table and signed, can best explain. For me, I believe that the framework agreement was mutually agreed upon, having fully understood the position of the Nagas, at the same time the position of the government of India. And therefore, I may not be able to give you the answer whether the agreement was in the Constitution or out of the Constitution.
Okay, we'll have to fix all the audios actually. We'll request the producers to call them once again. But let me go to Mr. Nenu. Mr. Azo Nenu, you see, you have said earlier in the day that the NSC and IM had signed the framework agreement under the purview of the Indian Constitution. You have said this remark, you have been very clearly said that. And therefore, all issues have to be resolved within the ambit of the Constitution. There is no two words about it. That is
Within the framework. You see, the day can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly, yes.
Has signed the framework, the day the IM has signed the framework agreement, there they have gone wrong. The day they have signed the framework agreement, they have sealed their fate. Because, in other words, framework agreement means within the framework of the Indian Constitution. So when it is within the framework of the Indian Constitution, flag is ruled out, Constitution is ruled out, integration is ruled out, and sovereignty is ruled out. But nevertheless, what I said was, we should appreciate Government of India for going out of the way to accommodate their requests.
Right.
That is outside the framework of the agreement. So now, Government of India says no to a separate constitution, no to a separate flag. But somehow they would like to accommodate the Yazabo and incorporate it in the constitution. And the flag, they want to recognize it on cultural programs. So we should appreciate Government of India also for trying to go out of the way to accommodate their requests outside the framework of the Indian Constitution.
Now, Mr. Nenu, when you say that the Government of India is ready to incorporate the Yazabo into the Indian Constitution, what do you mean? Have they told you clearly this?
You see, once they agree to these proposals, they would go to the competency clauses. After that, they would also go to the agreed position. And these two will be compiled together. They will compare and contrast, and they'll try to bring out a common draft.
Okay. Now,
Draft.
okay.
Then, while doing the common draft, the legislators will be involved, all the national workers will be involved, some lawyers, experts will be involved, and then after bringing out this common draft, it will be given to the public domain for the publics to accept. Then only then the final inking will come.
Okay, that is something, Mr. Sangtam, tonight on this program, core committee member and co-chairman of the UDA, which is the ruling government alliance in Nagaland, Mr. Azo Nenu, is making very, very significant and unambiguous and very, very clear-cut statements. He said that the government of India is going out of the way, Mr. Sangtam, by agreeing to incorporate, quote unquote, incorporate the Yazabo into the Indian Constitution. That means what he's saying is that the Yazabo, some parts of the Yazabo may find reflection in the Indian constitution. Now, do you agree that the Indian government is working the extra mile to resolve the Naga issue, Mr. Sangtam?
Yes, according to me, according to my understanding, if our core committee member says that, maybe they must have discussed it in detail. Anyway, we, our ENPO, our organization is of the opinion that anything you decide, anything you solve, it should be unified solution. That is our slogan. So when our this leader also says that they are going to come together, they are going to put final draft to the public domain, it's very good. No matter whether it's big or small, no matter. If only this is every time all the factions are on board, second are on board, and to solve the problem, nothing like that. That is according to my understanding.
Right. Now, Mr. Yopthomi, the ball, clearly now, the ball seems to be in the court of the NSCNIM.
Yes, yes. Yeah, now Naga people are eagerly waiting for the NSIM to amicably solve the differences. It is good to learn that the Indian government has agreed to incorporate Naga Yazabo. But the question here is Yazabo, Naga Yazabo, IM, they have their own Yazabo. NNPG have their own Yazabo. The public have to know what is in the Yazabo. Why is the government of India and NSNIM not disclosing the framework agreement?
No.
The
But
stakeholders have to know
yes,
the
but
content of the agreement.
Mr.
So
Yapthomi,
also the Yazabo
Mr. Yapthomi,
Yes.
Mr. Nenu has said that the draft agreement will be placed before the Naga people. Only then the inking will
Yes,
be
yes.
done. This is a new development. Now,
Yes,
we
yes.
have not heard it before. It is for the first time that a government representative, in this case Mr. Nenu, for the first time we have heard that the government of India is ready to place the draft agreement before the Naga people for them to read, and only then the signing will take place. So this is something new. This is a good thing, isn't it?
Yes, that is the wishes of the people, of the Naga people. If that can be done, people will also feel happy and secure. It is going to decide their destiny. So if I am and government of India can declare to the public domain what is they are going to take decisions before inking, that is the public demand. That is the voice of the people. And it is good to learn that they are going to do that.
Now, I'll have to go for a very quick break, but Elu and Dang, if the NSCNIM continues to stick to their demand, continues to, raise their point and, because in any negotiation, there has to be a give and take, isn't it? Give and take is a basic point in any negotiation. Do you agree or not?
Exactly, Wasbir. I mentioned in my opening remarks, saying that if we are to look for a lasting and sustainable peace in the region, we'll have to go for win-win basis. Then only we can hope for a solution.
Right. Mr. Nenu, the give and take approach, Indian government, do you think is reflecting the give and take approach?
Yes, very much. Very much. You see, people will be disturbed as how the Nagas of Manipur will be placed, the Nagas of Arunachal will be placed. But you see, in the concept, they have a separate entity for these two Nagas of Manipur and Nagas of Arunachal as well. It is called RATC, Regional Autonomous Territorial Council, will be given to Nagas of Manipur and Nagas of Arunachal, and there they will be accommodated in that manner.
Okay, now, that is a very significant statement. I'll go for a quick break and try to expand on this. What could be the possible solution look like? Now, Mr. Nenu had also said to our channel earlier today, I'm going to take some clarifications from him. He said that Mr. Ravi had in fact agreed for this territorial council as part of the deal, but that was something initially the new interlocutor was not ready first, but after persuasion, after they are argued by the core committee, he has agreed. So I'll ask Mr. Nenu what exactly happened and also go to my other esteemed panelists, but after this very, very quick commercial break. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are in the middle of a very big discussion on the Naga peace talks. I think for the first time, the big breaking story is that there are signs of hope. There are clear signs of hope for an early resolution of the Naga issue. So that is the breaking story on Northeast Tonight. This is a very important discussion. We have very, very esteemed political leaders and leaders of social organizations tonight on the show. We have Mr. Azo Nenu, Mr. Azo Nenu. He is the member of the core committee on Naga peace talks. He is the core chairman of the United Democratic Alliance government in Nagaland and is a leader of the NPF. Very important political leader, responsible political leader. We have the president of the ENPO, Mr. Sangtam. We have the Vice President of the CNTC, Mr. Hukie Yapthomi. And we of course have the General Secretary of the Naga Hoho, Mr. Eluandang. Now, Mr. Nenu, when everybody thought that the Naga issue is not going to be resolved for, we don't know for how long, after the statements made by Mr. Y. Patton and Mr. S.C. Jamir, of course these were not their personal statements. They said that this was told to them clearly by the central leaders, that means leaders of the government of India. After that statement that they are not going to consider the flag and constitution, a lot of people thought that, the stalemate is going to continue forever. But tonight, you are making a very positive statement. That is your feedback from your discussion. That means the discussion of the core committee with the Government of India negotiator, interlocutor and others, that the Government of India is ready to consider even the demand of a constitution. Naga constitution, Naga Yazabo may find some reflection in the Indian constitution. You have used the word incorporate. Now, can you really say tonight to all the viewers in the entire Northeast, not just in Nagaland, who are watching the program, can you assure them that the Naga issue is going to be resolved sooner than later?
You see, Mr. Hussain, I cannot assure because I am not the authority.
Right.
But after several rounds of talks and negotiation, there must be a meeting point. And so, as you said, give and take, Government of India also needs to come down somewhere in a meeting point. all the national workers also need to come to an area where they can meet. So now, after several rounds of talks, I think they are trying to find a meeting point. And I'm very positive and optimistic that something will come out if the IM agrees
If the IM agrees.
to the offer.
Right. Mr. Sangtam, now, today, do you see the solution coming, honestly? Because, you have heard Mr. Nenu. Do you see a solution coming? What would you like to tell the NSCNIM tonight?
See, on my part, I just want to convey like this. If only our IM section or the IM group, if they could come a little bit forward and see that the intent offer is accepted, as our core committee member has said, I think certain negotiation come to some conclusion. And we are very much sure that if only they listen to the call of our Indian people or leader, I think things is a little bit possible. But only thing is that whatever is done, whatever solution is done, what draft is done, final draft is done, it should be honorable, it should be acceptable for all the stakeholders, and it should come to the public domain. So that is the thing. That is when our member has good say to that extent, then I see a little ray of hope that something is coming up.
Ray of hope. The top leader of the ENPO, Mr. Sapikyu Sangtam, sees a ray of hope. Mr. Yapthomi, you were at that meeting where Mr. Patton made that statement in Wokha. You were at that meeting, I suppose, if I'm not wrong. This meeting where Mr. Patton addressed, that was in Wokha, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Mr. Patton had said clearly, but today things seem to be different because in these kind of negotiations, things can change overnight. So now, do you also see a ray of hope? Would you say that the NSCNIM should come forward, walk the extra mile, resolve the issue that has plagued Nagaland or the Nagas for more than 7 decades now?
Yes, Mr. Hussain. As our Azo have said, government of India have to also give up something. NSN have to give up something so that what come forward and solve naturally. Be it NNP, be it NSNI, the pulse of the public, they want early solution. I'm happy to learn that government of India agree to incorporate Naga Jigsaw in the constitution. If that can be met, I am also should come a little bit so that they can reach. And I see a great hope. And one more thing, Mr. and I want to make it once and for all regarding SC statement, why pattern did this in statement. They are also a stakeholder. They have a right to speak what they want, what is in their mind. It should not, be it IM, be it any, they should not stop the people to voice out what they want. As Jamir, so he is a Naga. Even Deputy CM is a Naga. He has a right to speak what he feels. So let us not dictate each other. People freely voice out whatever they think.
Right. That is a very important point that Mr. Yapthomi is making, Mr. Hukia Yapthomi, the Vice President of CNTC, that everybody should be allowed to express their opinion. Everybody should be allowed to express their opinion. That is a very, very significant point because otherwise, we all know that the Nagas are a very democratic people. Nagas are a very democratic people. There are several tribes in Nagaland. Every tribe has their own ho-hos, and every tribe has their own organizations. Like Mr. Yapthomi is representing the CNTC, Mr. Sangtam is representing ENPO, Mr. Endang is representing the Naga ho-ho. So everybody should be allowed to express their views. He said Mr. Jamir is a Naga, Mr. Yai Patton is a Naga, only the Naga leaders, nobody from outside is talking. So Mr. Nenu, do you think things are different now? Do you think there will be also a talk between the NSCNIM and the NNPGs? Because a lot of people are asking, why can't the NSCN and the NNPGs, both of whom seeks to represent the Naga people, why can't they meet? A lot of people want to know that. What do you think, Mr. Nenu?
That is a very valid question. You see, now the whole issue lies on the IM. The ball is in the IM's court. So once they agree and they come down, then their competency clauses will be discussed. And once that is finalized, the agreed position also will be brought together. They will study the case and they'll compare and contrast and they'll try to bring out a common draft. So during that common draft time, the IMs and the NPGGs, including the legislators, will come together and try to settle the issues, their differences.
So there is a role. There is a role for the legislators as well, isn't it? That is what you were saying, Mr. Nenu. There is a role from all the elected representatives, MLAs.
Of course. You see, Mr. Hussain, you tried to read between the lines. When we talk about honorable, acceptable, and inclusiveness, it's a broad-based inclusiveness. No one can be left out, not even the NGOs and not even the legislators.
Right. Mr. Eluandang, what would you like to tell the NSCNIM tonight? We have always been saying that Government of India should do this, Government of India should do that, Nagaland government should do this, Nagaland government should do that. But what would you like to tell the NSCNIM tonight? Why I am asking only the NSCNIM? Because the NNPGs are saying that they are ready to sign. So that is why I am not asking you to tell anything to the NNPGs. But why? That is the reason, only that is the reason. Now, what would you like to tell the NSCNIM tonight?
Well, Wasbir, that's a very straight question. See, the Naga people have been patiently waiting and looking for an honorable solution. We were re-strengthened and our hopes have grew when the 3rd August 2015 agreement was signed, framework agreement. But it got delayed and it is more than 5 years now. I would appeal the NSCN to listen to the voice of the people, hear the cry of the people.
Absolutely. Mr. Eluandang, the General Secretary of the Naga Hoho, is appealing to the NSCNIM to listen to the voice of the people. That is extremely important. Whether it is elected political leaders, whether it is political parties, whether it is civil society, whether it is militant groups or insurgent groups who seek to represent the people, they have to, at the end of the day, if they are working for the people, anybody, they have to listen to the voice of the people. I'm absolutely run out of time. I'd like to thank each one of you gentlemen for sparing your valuable time. You see, we at Notice Live, our only endeavor is to bring all the voices, give them a platform to speak their mind, and at the end of the day, we all want that there has to be an honorable and acceptable solution to the Naga problem, and that has to come sooner than later, because at the end of the day, the Naga youths and the Naga people have suffered for a long, long time, and they deserve an acceptable and honorable solution. Now, everybody tonight said that the ball is in the court of the NSCNIM. The biggest story tonight is that there is a ray of hope as far as the Naga peace is concerned, and that has been made by a very, very clear-cut statement by Mr. Kizoluzo Nenu, who is a member of the core committee and co-chairman of the ruling UDA. And of course, we had other esteemed panelists. I thank, this is not the last that we have heard on the Naga peace talk. Things are changing quite dramatically, and we are only hoping for an early and acceptable solution. I thank all the viewers for watching the show and the participants for being on the program. Good night and goodbye.